Hey everybody, I'm Adam Ross. I just want to welcome you to our discussion today. I'm going to speak about how to improve your sleep and recovery with nutrition. All right, so I just wanted to start off by saying a huge thank you to Nick Lamb, the online sleep coach, for putting this event together. Obviously, he's been able to put together a rock star list of presenters, and it's honestly just an honor for myself to be a part of it and to be associated with a lot of the guys that are presenting this weekend. So I just wanted to give Nick a big shout out. Thank you very much. And also wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who's tuning in right now. So if you're taking the time out of your weekend to come and do some learning, I just wanted to say thank you. Obviously, we have a huge number of people signed up for this event, so I feel like this is a pretty awesome opportunity. I was joking with my mom the other day, saying that I haven't played for a crowd like this since I was in my sports days, right? So I'm pretty jacked up about this. I'm pretty excited to get it going. So I guess without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So my name is Adam Ross again. I'm a registered dietitian and a certified sports nutritionist. I also have a certification as a functional strength coach through Kevin Carr and his guys. They do a great job. Website and IG information are at the bottom here if you ever want to reach out. Website is arnutrition.net. You can hit me up anytime on IG as well. It's just Adam Ross RD. So again, about me, what led me into the field of dietetics. I have a long history in competitive athletics. I was lucky enough to get a Division I scholarship. I'm born and raised in Western Canada. So at 20 years old, I moved out to Boston. I did 4 years of Division I hockey out there, and then was lucky enough to do 3 years playing professional hockey for the affiliate teams of Montreal Canadiens and Pittsburgh Penguins. Basically over the course of my career, I began to realize just how important nutrition is in terms of performance and recovery, right? So, the further you go with something, the tighter things get in terms of talent and, who's going to progress, right? So at this point, everybody's doing what they need to do on the ice and off the ice. In the weight room and things, but what a lot of guys weren't doing was worrying about their nutrition. So that's kind of a way I found to kind of, I guess, get a little bit of a competitive edge on people by focusing on my nutrition. And I think that, over the course of my career, I was able to be pretty successful, and it's probably not because I was all that talented, but it's more because I was committed like that, and the diet was a major part of my success, I feel. So when I finished up my playing career, I decided, I had some, I did a lot of trial and error over my time, and some good and some not so good. So I decided I was going to go back to school and become a registered dietitian, so that I could, help people, achieve the things they want to achieve without maybe having to go through it on their own and go through that trial and error that I had to do. So currently, I am a campus dietitian at St. John's University. So I have the privilege of working with the athletes and the student body on the campus there in Queens, New York. And it's been a great experience so far. Right now, we're actually closed, due to COVID-19. And I had an opportunity to take a reassignment over to work at the Javits Center and helping feed the COVID patients that they're housing there. So I've been doing that for the last couple of months, and it's been a really rewarding experience. I'm working alongside with the Army National Guard to make sure that all the patients at the Javits Center are getting fed properly. So it's just been a really rewarding experience, a great way to give back during a tough time for everybody. So it's been a cool experience. And then also, I do private coaching. So for the last about 3 years, I've been doing my own private coaching, one-on-one stuff with people. I've seen everybody from, actors, celebrities, to people needing to lose 100 pounds, to athletes, or just people that are looking to button things up a couple months before a wedding or before the summer beach season starts. So I've got a ton of experience working with a lot of different people, and it's been great. And I do it because I love it. This, athletics and nutrition is my thing. It's my life, and I live it. I'm kind of a lead by example kind of guy. So if I gotta practice what I preach, and that's what I try to do every day. So I'm sure everybody's kind of seen this little graphic before, right? We got our big iceberg there sitting in the water, and it's 20% exercise, which you see at the top, but it's 80% diet. And I mean, I would argue that it could be even more important, depending on who you are and what your goals are. But just thought it was a good little visual there. But so why nutrition, right? Why worry about your nutrition? Well, it's one of the two things that you're going to do every day. I mean, all these other recovery modalities, exercising, things like that, you're going to take days off of that, but there's not going to be any days off of eating, and hopefully not off of sleeping. And the other thing is that the odds are stacked against you. North American society, we're not exactly trending in the right direction when it comes to health and fitness right now. There's just a lot of crap out there on the market, and there's a lot of things just swaying people's decisions. And truthfully, we're not being so successful with it right now. So I'm hoping that some of the information you can get from me here today can kind of help you, better yourself, better family member, people you coach, whatever it might be. So why do we want to recover? Live your best life, obviously, right? So that's basically the whole point of this, right? You want to be able to recover so that you can get out and do the things you love to do, whether that's be in the gym, be active with your kids, play sports, go crush it in the boardroom on Monday. I don't care what it is, but the point of recovery is to live your best life. And if you don't recover, it's going to be a downward spiral, right? So how performance rides on recovery, right? So, progress equals stress plus recovery. All right. So everybody gets the stress part. We're all pretty good at that, right? We're running around like crazy, doing this, doing that. But do we focus enough on our recovery? Probably not. And if you're here at the summit this weekend, it's great because you're trying to get more information on that. So without adequate nutrition from your diet, full recovery just isn't possible, right? That's pretty simple. What you put into your body is what you're going to get out of it in a lot of cases. And if your nutrition is not on point and you're trying to run the candle at both ends, trying to work hard, play hard, train hard, that sort of thing, you got to recover even harder. So the goal of recovery is not really 5% body fat. That's not going to promote recovery for you. So I got bad news. You're going to have to eat if you want to recover. All right. Obviously, that's one of those goals that a lot of people have, is that low body fat and that sort of thing. But in terms of recovery, if we're going to focus on that, we have to kind of pick one or the other in some ways. So we got to make sure we're getting enough calories into our body that's going to fuel proper recovery. And 5% body fat limited diet is generally not going to promote that. So the goal is actually how much we can eat, not how little, right? So I think that we have this weird focus right now in our society on, everything's limiting. We're trying to limit ourselves on everything we do, right? But the goal should actually be the opposite, right? It's how much can you eat while still maintaining the goals you want to maintain. So I think that's a big one, is you got to push the limit, not on how little you can eat, but how much you can eat and still get away with it. Because that's going to be what's promoting the recovery. So I think that's a great place to start focusing. So here's our little hierarchy of needs, right? So in terms of the thing we need most at the bottom, we need calories and we need hydration, right? Up from there, carbohydrates are second, protein third, nutrient-dense diet being fourth, meal timing fifth, and supplements at the top there being the least of importance, but can still have some value for you guys. So hydration is huge. All right. I'm starting with this because I think that it's very important, and a lot of people kind of put it by the wayside, right? We don't think so much about hydration when we think about our nutrition, but it is a major player in our nutrition. Let me just get myself out of the way there. So frequent ingestion of water and sports drinks during exercise is one of the easiest and most effective performance enhancers, right? So basically, staying hydrated is going to promote performance throughout the day. Okay. And it also, like, what this does will support thermal regulation, being, your body temperature, and reduce cardiovascular strain during prolonged bouts of exercise. So it's going to make it easier on your heart, right, and your body to regulate itself. And here's a crazy stat: is that exercise performance can be significantly impaired um, when only 2% or more of your body weight is lost via sweat. So for somebody who only weighs 130, 140 pounds, 2% of your body weight is not that much. And it's not so much, maybe the day of I'm thinking of, but I'm trying to think in like a more macro view. So if you're not hydrating properly, during your workouts, after your workouts, throughout the day, this is kind of be like a snowball effect, right? So I wake up the next day, I'm already behind the eight ball, right? I'm already a little bit dehydrated. I go into another hard workout or another hard day, and I just continue to dehydrate myself. So I'm never actually allowing myself to get to that peak performance state, simply just because I'm not drinking enough water, which seems crazy, but it is the truth. So definitely one thing I feel is important for everybody to focus on here. Okay, so hydration status made easy, right? Let's just give yourself the P test. That's all you got to do. I tell people, obviously, this is very dependent on your lifestyle, how much you're sweating and stuff throughout the day, that your hydration, everybody's hydration is going to be a little bit different. So just give yourself the P test. If you're in a 1, 2, 3 range, your P is a light yellow color, you're all good. If you wake up one day and your P is green, I seriously recommend you go see a doctor, because that's a problem. Probably got some kidney issues going on there. So let's try to keep it in that 1, 2, 3 range, and we'll be okay. So electrolytes. Usually staying hydrated isn't only about how much water you're drinking. So I think we've all been there where, we've been in a situation we feel like we're drinking a lot of water throughout the day, but we're still cramping up, whether that be in bed at night, or during workouts, before activities, things like that. That could be an electrolyte imbalance, right? So we want to make sure we're getting enough, sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, things of that matter, in order to balance the body water. So, cells want to have balance, right? So we want to have a good amount of water inside the cell and outside the cell. And that's what our electrolytes, such as like sodium and potassium and things, will do. And they're actually super important, right? So they regulate everything from heart rate, down to like your muscle function. So those people who think they need to be on like a low salt diet all the time, if you don't have a high blood pressure or anything, I would actually say it's very important to be getting enough salt, especially if you're very active and sweating a lot, because that is very vital to your muscle function. So getting into the big things here, the calories. All right, this is the most important player in your recovery. So we want to make sure we're eating enough calories. Obviously, that's the greatest promoter of recovery, is just getting enough calories in. So if we're under eating, right, it can have some pretty detrimental effects. So that's going to give us the inability to gain muscle and strength, right? You're not eating enough food, your body's not repairing itself, which is going to lead to impaired performance. All right, prolonged soreness after exercise, excessive fatigue, tiredness, weakness. All these things, what do they lead to? They lead to injury, right? So you can anything you do, you can bend it enough times, eventually it's going to break, right? So if you're going through, weeks, months of training while under eating, I'm sure a lot of people have been there before. You feel beat up, you feel burnt out, you're not recovering well from exercise, you're not getting any stronger. Eventually, you've bent enough times, something's bound to break, and that's when injury comes into play. So it also leads to an impaired immune system and brain fog, right? So especially right now, don't have to talk about immune system right now. Obviously everybody understands the importance of that, and brain fog, right? So it's, fueling your brain. Your brain takes up a ton of energy, right? It's an extremely powerful organ in your body, and you got to make sure you're giving it what it needs. So vitamin and mineral deficiencies are another thing that will just basically are screwing up your metabolism, right? Being that body's just not running optimally when you're deficient on specific vitamins and minerals. Some of it can, be anything from impaired heart function to impaired muscle function to immune function, all these types of things. So it's super important we have enough nutrients in our diet, right? You don't want to be getting into deficiencies that can be very dangerous. And generally, I mean, what the body and the brain just won't operate that well, and we won't feel our best, and that's kind of not what we're here for, right? So I think everybody who's here today is looking to be operating at their best. So undereating is not going to promote that. And the calorie effects of overeating. That's another big one that we deal with in this society, right? Like I talked about at the beginning, overeating. I know a lot of us obviously understand the risk factors in being overweight and obese, but excess calories are going to get stored as body fat, right? And as body fat increases, so does your metabolic stress, right? So increased inflammation on the body, insulin, increased blood sugar, increased blood pressure, all these things are leading to that metabolic stress. And then as that builds, so does your disease risk, right? So the further things go, the higher the cholesterol gets, increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, and even diseases such as cancer, right? So being, obviously we all know the effects of being overweight and obese. I don't have to beat it into the ground, but it's just something to be very mindful of. So calories, how many do we need? All right. So we need enough to promote bodily function and recovery. We don't want to have too much. We don't want to have too little. Basically, body wants homeostasis, right? The body wants balance. So I would recommend honestly eating at like a minimum of a maintenance, maybe a few hundred calories over maintenance, if you're looking to recover optimally and build that muscle you're trying to build and feel energized and recovered every day when you wake up. So you're going to want to record your weight, right? If we're monitoring calories, you're going to want to record weight, how you feel, your energy, and your recovery from daily activities, right? So like I just spoke about, if you feel good, if you feel like you're recovering well and your weight's staying stable, and it is at a healthy weight for you, then you know that your calories are in a good spot. So again, aiming for balance. So how many calories do you need? Here's the formula. All right, so Mifflin St. George is kind of the gold standard that everybody uses now. There is a formula here. Feel free to take a picture and copy that down or whatever and use it. And then you just times it by an activity factor on this photo on the right here, right? So I would say if you want to make it easy on yourself, just Google BMR calculator, all right? And BMR calculator website will come up. You can just punch in your height, weight, and age into the calculator, and it'll do all this stuff for you. But if you want to do it yourself, here's the info. The one thing I do say is be realistic about your activity, all right? Don't say that you're a super active person if you're only in the gym for 1 hour, even if it's 7 days a week. That's not what that's about. That's for like a full-time athlete that's in the gym heavily, 3 to 5 hours a day kind of training, right? So just be realistic with yourself about how much activity you are really doing throughout the day. So carbs, all right? Second most important here or third most important, second most important on our hierarchy of needs, right, is carbohydrate. Okay, so carbs run you 4 calories per gram, right? Generally, so just general population, if you're just trying to stay fit, you are active, you're going to need about 3 to 5 grams per kilogram per day. Okay, so to get your, if you don't do kilograms and you want to get your body weight, you just take pounds, divide that by 2.2, and that'll give you how many kilograms you are, right? I would say if you're sedentary, you don't even need that many carbohydrates, right? So carbs are largely based off how much activity you're doing. So the more activity, the more carbs you're going to need, right? So this is why athletes will need anywhere from 4 to 10 grams per kilogram per day, right? So which can add up, right? I'm a 220 pound guy, which means I'm exactly 100 kilograms. So if I'm super active, back in the day, like when I'm playing hockey, I probably should have been up at, about 700 grams carbohydrate a day, which I wasn't anywhere near. So, it's important. You got to make sure you're focusing on this. This is a major player in your recovery. and your ability to get out and do the things you want to do. So it's carbohydrates are your brain or your body's first choice of fuel, right? So we want to make sure that we are putting in enough fuel for both your brain and your body every day. Carbohydrate, main source of energy, right? The places it gets stored are in your muscles and your liver as glycogen. So that's fast energy, right? When you're using your muscles, they need energy. They're taking glycogen that's built from carbohydrates that you eat. First from the muscles, then from the liver, right? And then obviously we can get energy from other places, oxidized fat. But so most important to macro related is providing energy and recovery from activity, right? So again, this is it. The carbs are going to be a key player if you're looking to perform and recover properly. And another added bonus of carbohydrate is they reduce cortisol, right? So everybody's trying to reduce that stress hormone a little bit, and carbohydrates have shown to reduce this a little bit. So take advantage. And obviously the majority we just want to get from healthy sources, right? So we want to be looking for whole grains, complex carbohydrates, vegetables and fruits are going to be the main places we want to get our carbohydrate. Okay, here's just a good example of a bunch of different carbohydrates, right? So we got the complex are going to be the ones with more nutrients and fiber, right? So those are going to digest a little bit slower. They're going to maintain blood sugar a little bit better, which is also a huge factor of recovery, right? Is you want a good stable blood sugar throughout the day. So these complex carbs will do that for you. The simple carbs are the ones we're going to want to eat closest to exercise times, right? So before, during, and after exercise is when you're going to want to get in a little bit simpler carbs that are going to be a little more starch-based, a little more sugar, less time to digest, faster fuel for the body to use. Recommendation for carbohydrates, right? How much do we need? This is largely based off your activity level. So the less active you are, obviously the less carbohydrate you're going to need. More active, the more you're going to need. So don't underestimate if you're an athlete or you're training hard, right? A lot of people underestimate the actual amount of carbohydrate they're going to need. It is okay to get up there in that 8 to 10, even if some athletes are training super hard, like a Michael Phelps or something, probably up into the 12 gram per kilogram range. As long as your calories are in a good spot and those are in check, you're not going to see any negative side effects in terms of body weight, body composition. So definitely don't hesitate to eat your carbohydrates. Okay, moving on to protein. All right, our second most important macro, 4 calories per gram. Right, most people can get away with 1.4 to 1.8 grams per kilogram. Athletes or heavy lifters, competitive lifters are going to need a little bit more, anywhere from like 2 grams to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And the reason we want to consume this high amount of protein, it is the builder and repair of all tissues in the body, right? So from your muscles to your bones to your skin to your cells to your DNA, it does it all, right? So it's super important that we're getting enough. What we don't want to get into is a negative nitrogen balance, right? So negative nitrogen balance will actually promote protein breakdown, which obviously slows your recovery, all right? Which is the opposite of what we're trying to learn here today. This can lead over time to muscle wasting, injuries, illness, and intolerances to training, right? So we want to avoid this. So we're going to want to aim for a variety of high quality animal and plant source proteins. So here's our list, right? Quality proteins. We got lean meats and poultry, fish, eggs, good dairy sources, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, low-fat dairy, things like that. Whey protein is also another great one. And we also have some vegetarian, vegan sources on there, right? Quinoa is a great one because it is a complete protein source. Beans, lentils, soy. Those are going to be incomplete protein sources, as most plants are. They don't contain all the amino acids that your body needs to make a complete protein. So that's why if you're on a vegan or vegetarian diet, it's super important to be combining these plant-based protein sources in order to make sure that you are getting that full amino spectrum. And then a plant-based protein is always a great option as well. So that'll have that full amino spectrum. It'll have a balance the different plant-based proteins in order to make that complete protein for everybody. All right, so recommendations, right? I just tell everybody always aim high. So I tell people to try to aim for about a gram per pound of body weight, right? So if I'm a 220-pound guy, I'm going to want to get, minimum 200 grams a day up to 220, maybe even a little higher. Smaller people, less active people, people on a lower calorie diet, you can go a little bit lower. Just in terms of if you are smaller, you're going to have less calories to eat a day. So it's really hard if you're trying to eat your body weight in calories. Sometimes protein can be taking up like 50% of your calories from the day, which is not really a great balance. So at that point, we can just drop your proteins a little bit lower, but just make sure they don't go super low. Okay, so we want to logically look at the plan. Does it make sense, right? So again, that's if you're a smaller person and your meal plan is telling you need 60% of your calories from proteins, is probably not really the most enjoyable plan to be on. So at that point, you can reduce that protein a little bit. All right, so we'll take a quick look at fats. This is not on our hierarchy of needs, but obviously it is a super important macronutrient to the body, especially when we're talking recovery, right? Because it is a major player in that oxidative system or aerobic system, right, where we're getting that slow burn energy just as we're resting throughout the day or going for walks or doing light activity. Fats are fueling a lot of that. So we want to aim for 20 to 35% of our daily caloric intake. Fat is a lot more calorie dense, right? It's 9 grams per calories per gram as opposed to 4. So something to be mindful of. You're going to eat a lot smaller portions of this and get a lot of calories from it, which is a great thing to incorporate if you're wanting to increase calories in your diet. So it's, like I said, less slower burning fuel source, but provides more energy per gram. Right, so dietary fats are vital in hormone production, brain health. Your brain is rich in fats, right? And fats also help form membranes within the body, which is what's sending signals around the entire body. So we don't want to limit our fats too low because we don't want to run into hormonal issues or anything like that. And they also carry a great deal of vitamins, right? So vitamin A, E, D, and K are fat soluble vitamins. So that's where these vitamins get housed. They're in fat cells. So again, just more reasons why fat is a super important nutrient in our diet. Okay. So if we're looking at our good fat sources, good healthy fat sources, right? We want salmon, fatty fish is a great one. It's high in omega-3, which is great for fighting inflammation, and it is starting to show some good results in terms of brain health as well. Olive, coconut, avocado oil are great ways to get monounsaturated fats. Coconut oil is a little more saturated, but does contain some medium chain triglycerides, things like that, things that are really good for the body as well. Obviously, plant-based sources of fats are the way you're going to want to go. So avocados, nuts, seeds, and then we have our eggs and our dark chocolate in there. Dark chocolate's another great one. Just make sure you want to make it as dark a chocolate as possible. Okay, so fat recommendations. So you just want to fill the remainder of your calories with healthy fats, right? So we want to make sure we're getting an actual gram amount of protein and carbohydrate, and then whatever's left in your diet, you want to fill in with fats. So if we're going to do just a quick recovery-based meal plan I just, did it for myself because it's easy, 100 kilogram human on a 3,500 calorie diet, right? We're going to start with protein. So if I'm going to go 2 grams per kilogram for myself with protein, actually 2 grams per kilogram for protein. We're going to do anywhere from 2 to 12, depending on who you are, for carbohydrate, and then we're going to use fats as the filler. All right. So just to go through this, hopefully it's not too confusing. We're doing 2 grams times 100 kilograms is going to be, we're going to need 200 grams of protein a day, right? There's 4 calories in a gram of protein, so that's going to work up to 800 calories, right? Moving down to carbohydrates, we're going to do 4, right? I'm a moderately active guy. I'm not doing a ton of cardio. I'm not an athlete anymore, so I'll stick to 4 grams per kilogram of carbohydrate, right? So again, times that by 100 kilograms, which is my body weight. I'm going to need 400 grams of carbohydrates a day times the 4 calories, and I'm getting 1,600 calories a day from carbohydrate. All right. So if I want to keep within a 3,500 daily calorie limit, right, I'm going to add my 1,600 plus 800, and that's going to give me 2,400 calories, and I'll subtract it from my 35. Right, so that gives me 1,100 calories left for the day that I'm going to put into fats. And then if I divide that by 9, which is calories per gram, that's going to give me 122 grams of fat per day. So I know that went quick, and hopefully, it wasn't too much for you guys, but take a picture if you need. So that's going to lead me to proteins, 200 grams, carbs, 400 grams, fats, 122 grams a day, and that's going to add up to a grand total of 3,498. So I did pretty good there, pretty close. And then obviously nothing's perfect, so you give or take a little throughout the day, and that's kind of how I like to build a diet. All right, so we're talking nutrient density, right? This is huge. Obviously, when we're talking recovery, your body needs vital nutrients to recover properly. We've spoken about that already. So you're going to get that from your whole foods. I would say plants are best for this, right? I will never argue that the more plants you can eat, the better in your diet. So load up on good quality plant sources of nutrients and vitamins. We also want lean proteins. They contain a ton of vitamins and minerals as well. And then quality complex carbohydrates, which again are coming from plant sources. So we're looking for, rice, potatoes, quinoa, lentils, things like that. And eat colorful diet, right? So the more color, the more different nutrients you're getting, right? So that's actually how the plants get colored in a certain way, is they contain a certain kind of vitamins and minerals. So the more color you can put into your diet, the more variety you're getting in terms of your vitamins and minerals. And the beauty of this stuff is these are generally lower in caloric density, right? So you can eat a ton of plants, you can eat a ton of veggies, and you get a smaller amount of carbohydrates. So if you are one of those people who you need to limit your calories and you're struggling with that, load up on plants, because that's going to give you a ton of nutrients, a ton of fiber for a smaller amount of calories, right? So load up the plate. So when we're talking meal timing, when should you eat? All right. Are the first 2 hours the most critical? I know that's one thing that gets said a lot, but not necessarily, right? They've kind of disproven that whole like metabolic window lasting only 90 minutes to whatever, 2 hours after a workout. It's kind of has been disproven. So this will be most important, right? Meal timing for athletes or lifters with like a serious performance goal. Obviously, then you're going to definitely want to be making sure you're timing, pre-workout or pre-competition meals, post-competition meals or workout meals, things like that. You're going to want to make sure you're on point with that, because that is definitely a major player in your performance at that point. But if you're just kind of an average Joe and you're training, one time a day, I wouldn't stress myself out with like making sure I'm pounding down a meal like immediately after my workout. Some people working out in the morning, then got to run off to work. If you got to wait a few hours to eat, it's no big deal. All right. So your daily intake is always going to trump the timing, right? So as long as you're getting enough throughout the day, and if you're only training once a day, you have that 24-hour recovery period, then you just want to add those nutrients and those calories up over the course of the day. So the demand stays high, right? So after exercising, your demand for nutrition will remain high for 24 hours, right? But that's not to say that obviously, like anything, that sensitivity in your muscles and your body to nutrients probably does diminish over time. So you are going to still want to try to aim to get some form of calories and protein, carbohydrate in within a few hours of working out still. All right. So if nutritional demands are not met, all right, again, this is where we run into our recovery issues, right? So recovery can be prolonged for like days or even weeks, right? So the biggest thing is just that we're making sure we're getting enough calories in throughout the day. So supplements, all right? So supplements should not be a substitute for a balanced diet, all right? I would say these are the last thing you need, and a lot of people, the majority of people really probably don't need them. But, what would I recommend to take for recovery if you're a supplement guy? carbs and protein, same thing you'd be getting from food, right? So if you wanted to do like an intra-workout carbohydrate source, whether you're doing like a Vitargo or even like a Gatorade or honey, individual honey packs, things like that, that'll be a good supplement for keeping your performance high, during workout. And then obviously protein, you can do pre or post workout protein, but those supplements, if you're not getting enough protein or carbohydrates through the day, can be very beneficial. And then creatine is the other one I would recommend. It's got a ton of science behind it, and that's going to help you, especially if you're doing a lot of explosive movements. Creatine is going to help fuel that explosive activity you're doing the first maybe 5 to 7 seconds, developing power, things like that through workouts. So always check the facts, right? There is a ton of bullshit out there about supplements. I mean, like, it's a major market, and supplements have taken over. People feel like they need them. It's kind of becoming crazy, right? So some of my favorite places where I can go to check supplement facts, or I'll use the Journal of International Sports Nutrition. That's a great one. Also, the Australian government does a good one as well here, and examine.com. I really like what they do as well. So they these guys all give pretty science-based answers for anything you need to know supplement-wise. Antioxidants are another big one I want to cover here today. These are huge in your recovery, right? So basically, like what we're doing, stressing our body over the course of the day, it creates oxidative stress and inflammation in our body, right? So what that's going to do is that's going to lead to reduced stress, and obviously, like the worse your delayed onset muscle soreness is, like if you have a crazy case of DOMS and you're sore for 3-4 days after, obviously you're not going to be able to go back into the gym and perform at your best for the remainder of that week, which can become a real problem if you're training for something important. And really just in life, I mean, it's not fun not being able to get up and down off the toilet every day. So antioxidants can help kind of battle that for people as well. The beauty of antioxidants is that they are abundantly rich in foods. You can get them from eating colorful foods, right? So again, we want to get into our dark blues, reds, purples, right? Eating a lot of berries. Dark leafy greens are another great one, right? So making sure we're getting a good variety of plants in our diet will ensure that we're getting a good amount of antioxidants, and also citrus fruits, right? Your vitamin C is a very powerful antioxidant as well, and vitamin E as well. Okay, so all these things we can get from our diets. All right, and if you are one of those supplement people, or you're not big on eating your vegetables and fruits, tart cherry juice is one that has been shown to contain a ton of antioxidants and be beneficial to people in their recovery. So just anything with high antioxidant, right? So tart cherry juice or pomegranate juice would do the same. And there has been studies that show taking a lot of antioxidants immediately, like post-workout, will actually like reduce the amount of like muscle that you build post-workout, right? So it'll actually reduce that stress effect, which creates those gains that you're looking for. So, I mean, I would say honestly, if it's the difference between having a hard session and not being able to have another hard session for 3 days, or maybe having 99% of those gains rather than 100, I would take the 99% and be able to keep coming back continually every day and crushing it. So I'm still saying that antioxidants are going to be an important part of a recovery diet. Okay, so for hormones in recovery, all right, so basically have two different states that we're in, right? We have our sympathetic, right, which is our fight or flight, and that's kind of our stress response, right? I think that's kind of where the majority of us live, and if you're here at this recovery summit, this is what we're trying to avoid, right? We're trying to find a way to get more parasympathetic and get back into that rest and digest state, right? So obviously there's a ton of different modalities we can use. As you go through the summit, you're going to learn all these modalities over the course of the weekend. So there's a lot of different ways you can get yourself back parasympathetic. But we need to be in that parasympathetic state. Obviously, it's called the rest and digest for a reason. Our body is more, I guess, in tune with our digestion and stuff during these times. So we want to be taking in the majority of our calories when we're in that relaxed state. All right. So that if you just crush a 2-hour workout and you're still all juiced up from that, now is not the time probably to go have a huge meal, right? You're probably going to want to give yourself an hour. You're going to want to do some of those recovery modalities, some breathing, whatever it is, calm yourself down, get back into that rest and digest state, and then consider consuming large amounts of foods in those windows, right? Not when you're in that heightened state. So a nutrition challenge here. I'd like to challenge everybody, right? I would just say, in terms of nutrition, I would say if everybody could take 2 weeks and just do their very best to eat a whole food, plant-rich diet with adequate carbs and good lean proteins, you would be truly amazed at how you can feel, right? I think that a lot of us are in this state where normal to us isn't necessarily feeling good, but we don't really know the difference because we've never given ourselves the opportunity to feel a different way, right? So, I mean, obviously I'm biased, I'm a nutrition guy, but I feel like nutrition is just so important to not only to your body to look good and feel good and everything, but to your mind as well, right? So, like I said, it's not easy to be eating healthy in this world, especially right now. It's tough to get into the grocery stores and things like that. But it is a serious sense of accomplishment, and it is a serious confidence builder when you can, basically make a plan and stick to it and be resilient with it. So I just think that for everybody, it's super important, just for building like mental toughness and self-confidence and stuff, that we get our diet on point. So what I would challenge everybody to do is just do a 2-week challenge, try to clean your diet up the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. I tell everybody probably like an 85% on, 15% off is best, right? That's giving you like 3 meals a week where you can stray away from the plan and enjoy yourself. And those other, I guess it would be 18 meals a week. You want to be super on point, right? So nobody's perfect at everything. Wouldn't ask you to be, but I do ask you just to do your very best whenever possible. So what you can do is you can push your normal, right? You're going to be able to achieve a level that you honestly didn't know you had. I'll never forget when I decided to change my diet over and go a little healthier. I mean, the energy level I had no idea I was even capable of. So that can be a super eye opener for people. And one thing that I wish all people could experience. And then you can recover like a champ, right? That's the point of you being here today, right? So an adequate diet is going to promote adequate recovery, and that's kind of our goal. So if you need any help with this, just please don't hesitate, reach out, right? You can reach me on the internet. I got my website, arnutrition.net. Email me, ar.nutrition.42@gmail.com, or hit me up on Instagram or Facebook is Adam Ross RD. So guys, I just want to say thanks very much for tuning in today. Hope everybody was able to take something out of this, and I was super happy to be able to do this for you guys today. So enjoy the rest of the summit.